and buffed. And just it's a good rule, but maybe tweak it a little bit. So we will consider that next week. On September 25th, we will have a lay-led autumn equinox service that Leslie has agreed to lead. I think she would welcome volunteers to read poetry and readings and such. So maybe not their horses and cows and things like that. Okay, and then one more thing about services. It's very exciting. On November 6th, the first Sunday in November, we will have our service at the Uxbridge Unitarian Church. So I've arranged that with Dave Moriarty, one of the trustees, and he is being so welcoming. He wants to hopefully find us a mic, even though it's probably not needed because the acoustics are very good there. He is looking for tables and chairs for us so we can have coffee hour, a simple coffee hour. Community meals. As you know, there's a box in the entryway there, or you can leave donations on the front steps, and whoever has a key can bring them into the church. Let's keep supporting this effort. It's a really important effort to help food insecure folks in the wider Milford area community, including our areas. So they want things like cans of soup and chili, bottles of water, breakfast foods, things like that. And finally, there is also a sign-up sheet for coffee hour and flowers in Goss Hall for the fall. And please sign up, and so we can enjoy coffee hour together every week. And also, we can have beautiful flowers, thanks to Bill and Chris for bringing beautiful flowers from their garden today. Those are all my announcements. Does anyone else have any other announcements? Deborah.
Yes, the Culinary Fair is going to be the first Saturday in December, and we need everyone to help. And if you say, well, I don't know what to do, I will find your shop. But I would like to have the raffle baskets that we've had in the past. They seem to go over well, and it's not an expense to the church. We just, it's all profit if people can donate them. So if you would like to make a raffle basket, maybe a breakfast basket or a dog basket or pet basket or whatever you happen to have, things don't need to necessarily be new, like in the box, but in really good condition because we are selling it. So maybe a wine basket, you have a couple of nice wine glasses with, some crackers and cheeses. So there are all kinds of ideas. And if you need ideas, say, I'd like to do a basket. I can help you think of ideas for something else. So I'd really like that help. Bill has volunteered to do the chowder, so we are doing the chowder luncheon. And so anybody who would like, not anybody, everybody needs to make a dessert. So I would like the desserts this year to be like squares or cookies. Because what happens with pies is people graze at the dessert table and we run out of desserts by the time the lunch comes on. So squares, and what I'm going to do is put those on the serving table, and so you may take 2 desserts with it, so that we don't have a lot of extra work, because we're short on workers. So if you have any ideas for jewelry too. If you have any old jewelry, costume jewelry and that kind of stuff, we are going to have a jewelry table. So anyway, and if you have any ideas, I am more than willing to let you run with those ideas. Thank you for your help ahead of time.
Thank you, Deborah. I believe you're the chairperson for this event, so thank you for being diligent about that. And I think Chris has offered to oversee the wreaths. Is that right? So we also need people to help decorate wreaths. So thank you. Thank you. That'd be great. Any other announcements this morning? Okay. We will now have our chalice lighting. I invite Melissa to come forward and light our chalice. There are 3 lighters over there. One of them works better than the other, so hopefully you can make a flame. Our chalice lighting words are by Deborah Falk. We light this chalice, symbolic of the warmth of community and the brightness that love brings into the world, illuminating our search for justice and peace. Light, that force that nurtures all living things. Here in our midst is this flame, so tiny and so significant. Please join me in saying the unison affirmation of this congregation. And please rise as we say it, and you may stay standing for the opening hymn.
This will be verses 1 through 3.
First, we're going to do the affirmation.
Affirmation first.
Yes, that's okay. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Our opening hymn is Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. We will sing the first 3 verses only.
Come on over, everybody. For the rest of our congregation, here is the tune.
Please join me now with the responsive reading, number 729, The Winds of Summer by Patricia Schutte. As is usual, I will say a line, and I invite all of us to say the following line together in each couplet. Number 729. You and I and all of us blew about with the winds of summer, following the sun in different ways of freedom and play, finding rest in the cool stillness of shadows and moving to the slow, heat-struck rhythms which turn the long hours of summer light. Now it is time for gathering in. We come together at this time and in this place on the bridge of autumn. Summer is fading backward into memory, and winter awaits in snowy brilliance. We meet with eagerness and delight, needing one another for sharing. We have joys and sorrows and hopes to share, questions, things we care about and want to make better, things that we would like to understand, ideas waiting to be heard. Today, we are together in gladness, once more the special community that we call our church, a community of all ages that sings its songs, tells its thoughts, asks its questions, and searches together with courage and with love. Now I'd like to invite you into our time of water communion. This will take the place of joys and concerns today. The ritual and prayer are adapted from Reverend Jill Terwillier and Reverend Cindy Landrum. We will punctuate this ritual with verses from I've Got Peace Like a River, number 100 in our hymnal. I will announce each verse. They will not go in the order in the hymnal. Today, at this time of new beginning of the church year, we're going to turn to water as an element in the deep story of connection and empowerment, of water, of something that flows in all of us and connects us to sacred Mother Earth. We will be using the pitcher to pour water into the bowl. The water symbolizes all water, and all water is connected. We are going to connect the water to 3 themes in our lives: joy, sorrow, and love. I invite you to think about the things that have recently brought you joy in your life, sorrows you would like to share, and the love that flows through your life. Think about them like energy between us, flowing like water through the connections to each other and to the earth. And then I'll invite you to share your joys, then your sorrows, and then your loves as you pour a little water into the bowl. We'll do this instead of lighting candles like we do most Sundays. We will share our words and experiences, knowing that we are all one, and the way of all water is sacred. And so now I will invite you to share your stories one section at a time, starting with your joys. You may come up during more than one session if you have joys and sorrows and loves that you would like to share. You may come up as many times as you'd like. So after, we'll have joys, and then we'll sing Joy Like a Fountain, verse 2, for the first section. And then we will go into the tears of sorrow. And that will be Raindrops, verse 5. Finally, you will share your loves, and we will sing Love Like a Fountain, verse 3. And then to conclude, we will sing Peace Like a River, verse 1. And as we sing, as I've suggested this before, let's sing it collectively. Instead of singing, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul, let's sing, we've got joy like a fountain in our souls. Not for every stanza, instead of I've got, it'll be we've got. And instead of in my soul, it'll be in our souls. So let us begin. We have in our community times of joy. The waters of joy and love are the rain puddle, the babbling brook, the fun of water in a fountain, splashing in puddles, all the times that we have joy in our life that are connected to water. I call forward the waters of joy. You are now invited to come forward and pour water from the pitcher into the glass bowl as you share your joy. This water is part of the living water that makes up our world. And after we have the sharing of the joy of water, and the joys that you want to share, we will sing, We've Got Joy Like a Fountain, verse 2. You are now invited to share your joys.
For the tune, for the congregation.
Are we doing the joys first?
Yes,
or
we'll do the joys, and then we'll follow that with the verse.
Okay.
So,
No. She's doing the song. She wants the songs after the joys.
Okay.
So
yes,
that's,
yeah, thank you for clarifying.
Where is it here?
Yes.
I was glad to share in the celebration of Zach and Blackstone 50th. Yesterday they had a party down at Slater Mill, and 50 years ago they had 10,000 people. Well, this year we only had 1,200, but the spirit is still there, and the river is still there, and it truly is a joy to see it come back slowly.
That's good news. Thank you, Peter.
I'd like to acknowledge the joy at the beginning of another school year and all the opportunities that it will offer, the experiences of learning that I am going to have this year with my students and with my fellow colleagues. And although it is a joy, it's somewhat bittersweet, this being my last school year and as a teacher. So I'm excited about it.
May you have a wonderful school year, Bill.
I've got two. The first is that I got to see Michael Warmest in concert on the 7th, and the second is that I get to see my partner in less than a month.
It's exciting. Yay for concerts and getting to meet your partner. Are there any other joys? All right, well, let's sing We've Got Joy Like a Fountain, verse 2.
Here's the tune.
We've got joy like a fountain, we've got joy like
also have in our community times of struggle, of pain, of sorrow. The waters of sorrow are things like the struggle of the rapids, the waterfall, the tears like the raindrops. I call forward the waters of sorrow. You're invited to come forward and pour water as you share your tears and sorrows. This water is part of the living water that makes up our world. After people share their sorrows, we will sing, I've got tears like the raindrops. Verse 5. You are now invited.
I have two sorrows to share this morning. One is that today is 9/11, and I think that's a sorrow that will scar us forever, but prove that we are strong enough to hold together. And the other sorrow is for those people across the big water and losing their queen, and how devastating that must be for all of those people who have never known any other queen but Queen Elizabeth II. So we share in their sorrow.
Thank you for sharing those things. Deborah, they're important things to remember today. The anniversary of 9/11, the people that are still in grief and injured and traumatized by that experience, and also for our neighbors across the pond as they mourn their loss and move into a new era. Are there any other sorrows this morning?
Well, I don't cry much, but just a little bit of tears for Ukraine and the senseless havoc that's being created over there.
Yeah.
And just a specific shout out to the loss of Shirley Barnes and what that's going to mean to this church. We'll miss her.
Yes. Thank you so much for acknowledging those things. We need to keep remembering Ukraine. May that situation, this needless violence, be stopped. May peace prevail. And thank you for mentioning Shirley. I'm going to talk about her and other losses in our sermon. I'm sure we all miss Shirley. She is such an integral part of this church community. Are there any other sorrows? All right, let's sing We've Got Tears Like the Raindrops, verse 5. Sharing the waters of love. We all have times of love in our community and in our lives. The waters of love are deep and vast, like the ocean. I call forward the waters of love. You are invited to come forward and pour water as you share your loves. This water is part of the living water that makes up our world. And then we will sing, I've got love like the ocean, as we honor the waters of love afterwards, which is verse 3. Now invited to share your loves. Well, I'll share 2 loves. I think most of you know I have 7 children, and it's very rare that I get them all together. But at the end of this month, I should have them all together in one place at one time. So that will be a wonderful, wonderful occasion. They're coming from California and Maine and Rhode Island and Massachusetts in different areas. So my loves. And then also, I just wanted to say I love being your minister. I love so much about being with you all. I love being with you on Sunday mornings. I love being with you in pastoral care situations. I love being with you when we have fun times like the Hollyberry Fair, the Strawberry Fest, and it's just such an honor and joy to be here with you for another year. So thank you.
Love, or I don't, the Latin term is amor patria, not love of country, but love of town. I didn't go to it, but the Menden Brothers of the Brush, they had a great festival on Lake Nipmuc and fireworks, and the community came together. Not that I was there, but the community. And going through, coming up from Pawtucket, all these towns are having celebrations, and it's a joy to see people coming together to celebrate what they share together, coming from all different parts.
Thank you, Peter.
I would probably start this by saying that I love, obviously I love music. Going to my
We know that.
I really, just the first 2 weeks, I really appreciate the enthusiasm of the kids. I appreciate the enthusiasm that comes out of them when they choose and they want and they go up there and they're trying to do it. I wake up very, very thankful every day that I get a chance to do that with people. I get to play, teach others, see that enthusiasm, so I love that very much.
That's wonderful.
That's awesome.
Thank you. I'm sure some of the other teachers in our congregation can identify with that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Similar themes. It's a chaotic time of year, always in the Bouchard house this time of year. Kids going back to school, multiple sports, multiple school activities, and I love it. It's crazy. We got 5 different people this morning in 5 different places, going in 5 different directions. But time is fleeting. We're looking at colleges, so it's a short amount of time. So enjoy the chaos.
Enjoy the chaos. Yay. It's good to hear you love it. Yay. Any other loves to be shared this morning? All right, well, let's go into it. We've got love like an ocean, verse 3. And to conclude, we will sing Peace Like a River, verse 1.
1, 2, 3.
I now invite you into a time of meditation and prayer, where I will say a prayer and then I will play my singing bowl as we continue in that spirit of meditation, followed by Spirit of Life, number 123, that we will remain seated for. Let us pray. Spirit of life and love, spirit of community, the joys and sorrows and loves that we shared this morning are gathered together in the circle of our community, including the unspoken joys and sorrows and loves that we have in our hearts this morning. All of life on earth sprang from water, and water connects us all. We hold these joys and sorrows and loves in our hearts, and we lift them up for others, to those who are grieving and suffering, for those who are confused, for those who are lost in spirit, for those who are ill and cannot be with us this morning, for those in our communities who are grieving and suffering a multitude of ills. We think of them. We also celebrate with those who are rejoicing in new connections in their lives, new situations, new events. We are always changing. We always have transitions. And so we're thankful for this community and where we can share our hearts. As we begin this new church year, facing new challenges and struggles and new unknowns, and facing many of the same struggles of loss in our lives, of the cry for justice, of sorrow and pain, we once again turn to the faces of one another to be the sources of strength through which hold and carry us all. May we be blessed by the living waters, held in the arms of the cosmos, cradled in community. Although we may be unsure of the future, may we be sure of our caring and commitment to one another. Amen. Thanks again to Reverend Jill and Reverend Cindy, who shared many of these words for the water communion ceremony. So may we keep these things in our hearts and minds as I play my singing bowl. I invite you to lift up your heart with all the things you have in your heart and in your life today, the things you've heard this morning, or to simply be present to the sound of the singing bowl, accepting and basking in this moment of peace. This moment when you can focus on your breathing and your heart beating and the fact that we're together in community. We're alive. We're here. We're here together. We're here together now. Peace.
My
This morning's story is called The Brothers, from the Amazing Grace curriculum by Richard Kimball and Polly Peterson. Once there were two old brothers who were inseparable travelers. One was named Life, and the other was named Death. One time, after journeying across a desert, they came to a refreshing green oasis where they were greeted by the spring keeper. "Would you like some cool water to drink?" he asked them. Both the men nodded their assent. Dipping his gourd into the pool, the spring keeper added, "It is the custom to let the elder drink first. Which one of you is the elder?" Life spoke up first. "I am the elder," he said, stepping forward. "No," Death contradicted, "I am the elder." And he stepped forward too, next to his brother. Life said, "That is impossible. Things must live before they die." Death responded, "On the contrary, things begin in death, are born, live for a time, and then return to death." Said Life, "That's not how it works at all. All things come from the Creator. They live, and then they die. Death began after the first creature lived and died." Said Death with a spark in his eyes, "Death is the before and after of all life. Things arise from it and return to it. Therefore, death is the elder." The two debated like this as they stood next to the spring and had yet to drop a drink of water. Yet to drink a drop of water. Finally, they asked the spring keeper to judge, truly, who was the eldest. "Gentlemen, I cannot say," said the spring keeper. "What you've each told me is true." He looked at the two brothers long and hard. "How can one speak of death without life? Death is like a desert until rain falls. Then all the living things sprout miraculously from the rocks and sand." And then the spring keeper smiled. "And how can one speak of life without death, to which all things are certain to return?" The spring keeper paused. "No, neither can exist without the other. The Creator wears both of those two masks. Neither of you is elder or younger." He held out a single gourd. "Drink now, together. Drink, and then go in peace." The two brothers took the gourd, drank their fill together, and headed off in the comfort of each other's company. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Now we will have the call for the offering and the offertory. If an usher could please come forward and collect the offering. The offering words are by Brandon Lovely. "Let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and of hope, for we are now keepers of the dream." And the offertory this morning is "Have You Ever Seen the Rain" by Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Oh, we're singing it. Nice.
We're so glad to have a choir again today. This is great.
Thank you for meeting everybody. I definitely do have the lyrics here.
You'd like to be in the choir? You're welcome to join in.
I do.
Someone told me long ago, there's a calm before the storm. I know
We got a choir, woohoo! Yay. And next week I heard they're doing Calypso by John Denver, so that would be fun to hear as well. Today's reading is called Where Many Rivers Meet by the poet David White. All the water below me came from above. All the clouds living in the mountains gave it to the rivers, who gave it to the sea, which was their dying. And so I float on a cloud, become water, central sea, surrounded by white mountains. The water salt, once fresh, cloud fall and stream rush, tree root and tide bank, leading to the river's mulls. And the mulls of the rivers sing into the sea. The stories buried in the mountains give out into the sea, and the sea remembers and sings back from the depths where nothing is forgotten. The sea remembers and sings back from the depths where nothing is forgotten. Today's sermon is called The Waters of Life. One of my favorite memories growing up on the pony farm in Connecticut involved our long dirt driveway. One rainy day, I spent hours in the rain making new channels for the water to flow using the sophisticated tool of a stick. People talk about being in the flow where they lose track of time when they are completely involved in an activity. That was me that day. This truly is one of my favorite childhood memories, just out there in the rain for hours and hours. I made so many new channels of water with my stick in the dirt driveway. In some channels, the water flowed easily and freely, and in other channels, the water barely trickled, blocked by a pebble or some other encumbrance. I learned a few things about going with the flow that day, both by being 100% present to the task at hand, and also something about how people and nature may work together. I could control some things with my little stick, but I couldn't control everything. If I wanted the water to flow uphill in the driveway, I found out very quickly that did not work very well. If I dug a very deep trench with a stick, maybe I could get a little tiny bit of water to go up the driveway, but not very much, and not for very long. My channels worked much better when I made them in the direction the water was already flowing. All living things need water, whether they live at the bottom of the ocean or on the mountaintop, or even in the driest desert. Water made life possible on earth. Let us appreciate the gift of water and not take it for granted. Adult humans are comprised of about 55 to 60% water. Water is involved in just about everything our bodies do. Here are a few examples. Water is a big component of the blood that brings nutrients to all our cells. Water helps us regulate our body temperature. It enables us to get rid of waste. Water acts as a shock absorber for our brain and spinal cord, and many other things. All the processes in our body are able to happen because of water. In plants, unlike my driveway channels that I made with my stick, unlike that, in plants, water defies gravity. Water has a characteristic of being kind of sticky. It sticks to itself and other things. That's why water forms round droplets. Not all liquids do that. This stickiness helps get the water from the roots of the plants up into the leaves. Water molecules travel up thin straws called xylem in the plant by holding onto each other and onto the walls of the tube, and they're pulled upwards as water evaporates from the leaves at the top. That was amazing. Water defies gravity like that. Here's something else. A drop of ocean water, one drop, will most likely have millions, yes, millions of bacteria and viruses 1 drop of ocean water. And that drop of ocean water could also contain fish eggs, baby crabs, plankton, or even small worms. Not great news for those of us who like to swim in the ocean and occasionally get a mouthful or nose full of water. Oh, wow, I didn't even know that had so much life in that single drop. Since all human, animal, and plant life depend on water, there is a moral imperative of keeping our water clean. Water should be considered a basic human right, and yet there are so many threats to clean water, even in our own country. As severe rainfall flooded Mississippi's Pearl River in Jackson, Mississippi, a key pump at the water treatment plant, which provided the capital city with its drinking water, this key pump was unable to keep up, and it caused a severe drop in water pressure. Some 150,000 residents were left without safe drinking water, and I believe they still have a boil order in effect. Just for one example, this crisis in Jackson, Mississippi highlights the fragility of water systems that will be increasingly vulnerable to effects of climate change in the coming years. Every living thing depends on the ocean. Covering more than 70% of our planet's surface, the oceans contain an amazing, astounding diversity of life. And the ocean affects everything from food systems to global weather patterns and more. And the ocean is in trouble from the effects of overfishing, climate change, and pollution. It's so easy to feel powerless as individuals. And indeed, many of the big issues will require leadership from governments and businesses. However, there are still other things we can do besides writing to our elected officials. WorldWildlife.org suggests several things we can do, including simply learning more about the ocean. Rachel Carson said, the more we care about our natural world, the less taste we shall have for destruction. So just simply learning about the ocean is a good first step, because the more we learn about it, the better prepared we can be to inspire change and help others do the same. Another thing we can do is to use less plastic, especially single-use plastics. Things like non-reusable water bottles, takeout packaging, plastic bags, plastic silverware, and straws. These single-use plastics pollute our ocean and can destroy ecosystems and endanger marine life. With 8 million tons of plastic dumped in the ocean each year, within the next decade, there could be a pound of plastic for every 3 pounds of fish in the ocean. And I'm sure that all of us are probably not throwing plastic things in the ocean, but when we throw them in the garbage, we don't know where they end up. They might end up in the ocean. Even those things that we recycle, those plastic things that can be recycled, we don't know for sure what happens with those things. At least I don't. So when I use single-use plastic items, I don't really think about them ending up in the ocean. So along with many of you, I need to grow my awareness and preparedness that I can use less of these items. Like if I get takeout food, I can bring my own silverware and not use single use. And I can drink water with a cup without a straw. Like, they're very simple things that I can do, and we can all do. We can also cut down on our carbon footprint. In the last half century, the ocean has absorbed 90% of the excess heat created by burning fossil fuels. That's led to warmer waters, which has numerous effects on ocean creatures and can even affect weather events on land. We can decrease the effects of climate change on the ocean by simple actions such as unplugging electronics when not in use, turning off lights, adjusting thermostats, choosing to drive less when possible, and seeking out renewable energy options. Being an advocate for the ocean can be as simple as speaking out about the importance of this amazing and vast ecosystem. We can also stand up to fossil fuel companies. Also, the algae in the ocean provides much of the oxygen that we need. So I wanted to share about water, both the amazing gift of water and also the concerns around how humans have polluted water and things we can do. I thought that was important to talk about on Water Communion Sunday. But where I really wanted to get to is how water is a great metaphor for our ever-changing church community. As Heraclitus said, slightly paraphrased, no one ever steps in the same river twice. The molecules of water that are flowing are always changing, and yet rivers have long continuity. In the same way, the people who have made up our church have changed so many times, and yet our church has been one entity since 1667. Every group of people is always changing as people come and go for various reasons, and the people in the group are themselves changing as well. We experience the outward changes profoundly. In the past year and a half, we had 4 members die: Sonia Porter, Audrey Gillum, Marty Fletcher, and Shirley Barnes. Sonia and Audrey used to attend regularly before the pandemic. Marty was a dedicated Alliance member, helping out with all the fundraisers and events, and Shirley was both a dedicated Alliance member and a very dedicated church member. It will be hard to not see her around here every Sunday. These losses are significant. They're losses to all of us, and I have to remember when I talk to some of you, many of us are grieving Shirley. Like even this morning, Shirley told me she liked my stories. I wish I could have told her about making channels with my stick. And I wish I could have heard her sing the choir this morning, because I know she would have loved that. So we have personal losses and we have collective losses. Also, there are happy changes in our church community. Tim Hall and Scott and Heather all joined this spring and signed our membership book, and we're so glad to have them. Other folks have returned and started coming to church again, who had previously left and now come back. Thus, the makeup of our church community is different, and it will always be different. People will always come and go, and like any group of people. How shall we rebound from our shared griefs? Mary Oliver wrote, "To live in this world, you must be able to do 3 things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing that your life depends on it, and when the time comes, to let it go, to let it go." We have to let those who have passed on go, while we can still be inspired by their memories. They have joined the other ancestors of our faith. Shirley and Marty and Thanya and Audrey are now ancestors of our faith, as well as people who passed before. One thing, I was talking about memories of these dear members. One thing I found inspiring about Shirley is that she had a rich experience of church as she fully participated in whatever was going on. She attended the Peace Vigil for Ukraine. She donated to the Milford Community Meals program that I announce most weeks. She wanted to experience walking the labyrinth when I brought a labyrinth to church. She put on mini collations for dear souls who passed, including for her very close friend, Marty. And Marty and Shirley helped side by side at too many to name, strawberry fests and hollyberry fairs and church suppers. May their dedication inspire us. Let us love those around us fiercely. Let us love those around us fiercely. And when the time comes to let them go, to be able to let them go. I think one of the most important functions for a church is for folks to find support around death, bereavement, illness, job loss, hard times, injury, and grief. A church also supports people in happy times of transition, such as weddings, new babies, new homes, new jobs. How do we regroup with who we are now? After Shirley passed, Leslie told me we need to regroup. Regroup. Leslie gave me that word. I wish she was here today. That word has really stuck in my head these past several weeks. We need to regroup. Just like when I made channels for rainwater with my stick, we need to work with what we have now, with who we have now. We are made up right now of who we are today. We need to acknowledge our grief and to be able to keep moving forward. Those who have gone before would want us to. I know Shirley would want this congregation to thrive. She would want the Alliance to thrive. So would Marty. Those who have gone before would want us to regroup and move forward with our new way of being in the world without them, but with new people and new energy. It's up to us who are here now to build our faith community and to help our community thrive and grow. Leslie and Deborah have agreed to be on a membership committee. We will discuss growth and membership issues and host some new programs. We had a wonderful conversation with Hal and Deborah and Leslie a few weeks back about ways we could move forward in an informal service. However, it's up to all of us to build up and work for health and growth in the congregation. What can you do? What can we do together? How can we keep flowing together in the coming year? First of all, we can try to build up our community by having clear communication. Secondly, church is a wonderful place to grow in our ability to respect and learn from others who have different experiences and opinions. Thirdly, we can flow together by visualizing and imagining how we want to be in our ever-changing community and then acting on those visions. Water changes the landscape, and water's journey is changed by the landscape. We have a church covenant that binds us together. Some churches have dogmatic creeds that all members have to agree on. We have an open covenant that sounds simpler, but is not easy. Love is the spirit of this church. That is our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church. Let us live into this covenant that we have, that we've agreed on. This is a covenant that can change us if we endeavor to keep it with our whole hearts. How can this community feed you and feed your spirit? And how can you help feed the community with your attitude, with your words, and with your actions? I would love for us to be even more connected as a community. When a member or friend is grieving or ill or having a hard time, it'd be great if more of you could reach out to that person, whether by a card, an email, a phone call, or a visit. How do we want to move forward at the beginning of this new church year? How would you like to see the church move forward? What social justice or outreach would you like for us to do or offer to the wider community this year? Last year, we participated in an Earth Day cleanup event, and we had a peace vigil. We've made a stand for Black Lives Matter in the past. What can we do together this year to build up our community from within and to reach out to the wider world? Here's a quote from the Maori Wanganui tribe. "The river flows from the mountain to the sea. I am the river, and the river is me." You are each the community, and the community is all of us. Where shall we flow together? Water flows through all things, so it can remind us our deep connection with each other and with all of life, of our seventh UU principle, that we are deeply interconnected in the web of all life. Water can remind us of that. Let us pause every now and then when we get a drink of water or take a shower or use water in the so many ways that we do each and every day. As we drink water or as we use water, let us stop and appreciate this great gift that connects us to all of life. Let's appreciate this great gift and know that we're all connected as we did in the symbolic ceremony of the water communion this morning. Let water help remind us that we are part of the great web of all life, and we have our own part to play in that story. And let us give thanks that we have the privilege and the opportunity to take part in that story, and that water and the sun and the oxygen and the plants and the animals and everything in the web of life is supporting us, and we are supporting the web of life. And let us do a good job and a better job of supporting the web of life in our actions, in our words, in our visionings, in our work together here. So I hope you remember water this week as we go into a new week and a new beginning of a church year. The gift of water, the gift of connection. Amen, and blessed be. Thank you. Please join me in our closing hymn, number 128, For All That Is Our Life. You may rise in body or spirit as we sing this song. We will only sing 3 verses. We will sing verses 2, 3, and 4. Verses 2, 3, and 4. For all that is our life. You may remain standing for the extinguishing of the chalice and the serenity prayer and benediction. I invite Melissa to come forward and extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but we carry with us the warmth of caring community, the light that comes from seeking knowledge, and the flame of passionate commitment. These we carry with us until we meet together again. And please join me in saying the serenity prayer, as is a tradition here. God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Go with joy like a fountain. Go with love like an ocean. Go with peace like a river until we meet together again. Amen. Go in peace. And the organ postlude is, "Oh, hear my people."